Good afternoon, everyone again. My name is Hafsa Sassia. I'm a Deputy Treasurer and also Women Lawyers Representative of East African Law Society. I am also a partner of Alais & Associates. It's a law firm located in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So we are all here today. I'm also your co-host. By the way, I am also your co-host and a moderator. I'll be, my another host is Mr. President, who I will also welcome later. So thank you very much for being with us here today. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. I can see some of the faces here. So we are here because we recognize that empowering women in our sector is not only the right thing to do, but also the most smartest and the wise thing in our community development, for economic development, and also for business and career-wise. By the time we finish this webinar, we are hoping to achieve 3 things here. First of all, what it takes to raise to the pinnacle of leadership as women. Secondly, what can we take to our work to help us be more effective in our initiatives collectively as we work with others? And thirdly, we hope that it will be a day full of inspirations, new connections, and also a reflection for everyone. So I will challenge you all during this discussion. Please look for at least one insight, just one insight that you may find inspiring, and it gives you renewed commitment to your work and also your career. So welcome again. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the President of East African Law Society, Mr. Bernard Oundo, to give us his opening remarks. Welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you, Hafsa, for your kind introduction. On behalf of the Governing Council of the East African Law Society, I am pleased to welcome you to this inaugural Women in Leadership webinar series, which brings together distinguished women in our profession to share their experiences and inspire more women to rise to the top. Ladies and gentlemen, when we were elected into office last year, I and my council made a promise to build an all-inclusive society. I am impressed that the ELS had already started the journey to recognize the significant role played by women lawyers in leadership across the region and launched a platform for their engagement. Through the annual Women Lawyers Conference, we've been able to reach and inspire hundreds of women lawyers across the region, teaching and training them to take charge of law firms, boardrooms, companies, governments, and to show the world their spirit. While we believe that undo the stereotypes and rise above the cultural norms. Progressive legislation and deliberate actions have leveled the playing field, and it is time for the women to take advantage of these advancements. Through our monthly webinar series, we are going to give you a platform to learn from the very best across the globe. It is our hope that this will inspire all aspiring women leaders in the legal fraternity to rise to the top. I would like to thank the panelists for taking time off to share their experiences, and the Governing Council and the Secretariat for making this happen. I hope that the experiences and lessons shared today will inspire us to start thinking about the different ways we can influence and impact at our different levels. I now hand back to our moderator for the day, our very own Women Lawyers Representative for the ELS Governing Council, Ms. Hafsa Sasha, to take over and guide the discussions. Thank you all and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was a great speech. It's now time to hear from our experienced panelists. So I'll start by introducing the keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker today is here to share her experience, challenge, leadership. To mark our very first Women in Law webinar series, we could not be having a more appropriate person than her to motivate, to embellish us, to enhance, to enlighten, and also to enrich this occasion. I am absolutely delighted to present the shining star of our webinar and our keynote speaker, a person who is not only a judge, who is not only a chartered mediator, who is not only a certified arbitrator, but also the first person and also a woman, vice president of International Criminal Court. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me, Honorable Lady Justice Aluchi.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me, inviting me to give the keynote address, Mr. President, and the team from the East African Law Society. Please allow me to share my screen if I can. Let me try. Okay. Let me try. Okay, can you see my screen? Just part of it, is it?
Yes, no, yes, we can see it. We can see it.
Just part of it, because yes. I can't. Yeah, okay. Let me see if, wow. Let me see if I can play from Women in Leadership, Lessons Learned and Experiences Across the Region. Yeah, because, okay, let me see. Please bear with me, I'm trying. I thought I would start by just saying, oh, sorry, just saying who I am. There I am, I'm wife, family, mother, grandmother. That's me at the Kenya Judiciary. And sorry, are you able to see this fourth one?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, it's me who can't see it, but you can see it. That's yes, the whole of me. That's who I am. That's why I brought it. Unfortunately, this second picture, there are two grandchildren who are not in. They were not born, but now they are here, but they are not in the photograph. I just thought I would show, this is who I am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I know that we are talking about experiences, women in leadership, lessons and experiences across the region, but something caught my attention. And actually my subtopic is In Search of Greatness, how can women in law rise to the pinnacle of leadership? What caught my attention in this photograph of the Vice President, Kamala Harris, was where the question is, have you ever wondered what you can do with a law degree? Ever wondered what you can do with a law degree? That's why I brought this, because I found this question and I resonated with it completely, because I'll show you why. You have a law degree in your hand. Have you ever thought what you could do with it? I asked myself that question many years ago, as far back as 1974 when I joined the judiciary, and I think I'll explain in the next slide. So that's the reason why this, the photograph of Kamala is here. Ever wondered what you can do with a law degree? Now, my judicial career, as I say, dates back as far as 1974 and eventually ended in 2018. When I used my calculator, it gives me 44 years. Wait, I hope my calculation is right. Now, I started off my judicial career as a district magistrate. That was after my law degree and then my professional training at the Kenya School of Law. And then at that time, the only opening in the judiciary, if you are newly graduated, you could only start as a district magistrate professional, because there were lay magistrates at the time. So this was distinguished because you have a law degree and you have had full training, professional training. And so that's why that question from the picture of Kamala Harris, the vice president, because I also asked myself, I have a law degree and I'm being offered a job at the lowest level in the judiciary with my law degree. And then I said, those many years ago, I told myself, I'm going to make something out of this law degree. I'm starting at the lowest level. That was the lowest level in the judiciary. Then you work your way from resident magistrate, senior resident magistrate, high court, and court of appeal. And then I eventually, with that, starting at the lowest, I ended up as an international judge. at the International Criminal Court. That's why I resonated with that question. But with a law degree, what can you do with it? That's what I did with mine. And that's what I would like to encourage as many women, since this is women in leadership, I'd like to encourage as many women as possible that don't underrate yourself. You have professional qualification. If you have it in law, don't underrate yourself. Take it to the highest level possible. Take it beyond where I took mine. I just didn't take it as high as possible, beyond mine. Now, in the whole process, there are always challenges and experiences on the way. There are many, but I only probably do give you 2 or 3. I remember many years back as a High Court judge, and I spent a lot of time in the High Court in Kenya. I was sitting on a 2-judge matter with one of my colleagues, a male judge. We had finished our discussions. We were discussing the judgment. We had finished, and then we started talking about several other things, as judges normally would do, as colleagues do. And then our pay slips were brought to us. And because we were in my chamber, so I opened mine and I said, my brother, what is yours like? I don't know why I asked him. Completely out of the blues, then he showed it to me. And I said, my brother, why are you getting this allowance? So he told me, you know, my sister, you can't get it because you are a woman, you're a married woman. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, these are the regulations. You are a married woman. I said, my brother, I'm a judge like you. He said, yes, but you're a married woman. So I then suddenly realized that there were some things that you couldn't get because you are a woman, despite the fact that you are a judge. I felt completely discriminated against. And by the time I joined the judiciary, there was only one other woman. She was a senior resident magistrate, just if you will. She was the first woman. I was the second woman. So quickly I ran to her. I told my brother judge to give me his pay slip. I said, I won't share it with anybody except my sister judge. So we looked at it and we said, my God, here we are doing the same amount of work and we are going through what we, at that time, we call this discrimination because we couldn't call it anything else. We took that matter so far, higher up the ladder, and eventually that regulation, that regulation was changed because we were looking at it from the point of view that we are judges, we are women judges, and we were only 2, and we were 2 for almost 10 years in the High Court. And why is it that we couldn't get the same benefits as our male colleagues? So eventually we took it very high up, really high up in government. And what later on I discovered was that because now we are judges, yes, we are married women. So in order not to discriminate against any other married woman in the civil service, the regulation was changed for everybody. So married women in government then benefited from that reaction that I just saw by chance from my brother judge. Then promotion. The matter of promotion, I think for women, during my time, I think the matter of promotion was slow. It was very slow. Here we were 2 women judges only, rising up the ladder, but our promotion was slow, very slow. I do not understand why. I didn't understand. And for me, I just said it must be because we are women. What else? What other reason? But today, both in Uganda, in Tanzania, in our region, I'm glad to say that so much has changed. Even right here in Kenya, there are 2 women. We have now 2010 Constitution brought in the Supreme Court. We have 2 women judges in the Supreme Court. We never imagined this would come during our lifetime. We have the deputy CJ is a woman, and right now she's the one acting as Chief Justice, Philomena Mwilu, because the Chief Justice has retired, and the process of having another Chief Justice is the next Chief Justice, the process has started by the Judicial Service Commission. So these are things that there are challenges on the way, real challenges. And that was local. There are many, but I just decided to choose those two. Internationally, I was very conscious of the fact that I was a woman and the color of my skin was black, isn't it? So I was conscious of that. And there were several of us from Africa region. And whenever colleagues were talking, if they made any move towards that, I always stood on my right. I always stood on my feet and I said, excuse me, the fact that we come from Africa, that doesn't mean anything. We are as experienced, if not more experienced than most of you. So those are some of the challenges you come along as you go through this journey, but never be deterred. Don't ever be deterred. Now, just some examples of what I call fearless leadership in my legal career. There are times that you just have to show fearless leadership. And I'll go through it very quickly. As a High Court judge, I was also serving in children's committees. I was serving in the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. I was vice chair. And then I used that knowledge and information to establish the chair of the African Committee on the Rights and Welfare, to establish the African Committee on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. I established that committee in 2002. It was then OAU, then transformed into AU, African Union. And during that time, if you are chairing a committee within the African Union or OAU, you had to give your report directly to the summit. And the summit was summit of heads of state and government. I did that in 2002 in South Africa. And the following year, the summit was in Maputo. So I had to make my report in Maputo. And at that time, I'm sorry to put it this way, but with a lot of respect, the summit was really, the African Union at the time, there were many, many more men than women. So if your name was called and you're going to the stage, it was, and there was, I suppose 2003, I was much younger than now. So my name was called and I was going to the stage and I started giving my report because I was the chair of the Children's Committee. So when I was giving my report, and the chair was the president I think President Chesano of Mozambique, he was the one chairing. So when I was giving my report, there was a loud knock. Somebody was banging the table, and the chair has given me the opportunity to make my report. So what I did, that's what I call it, maybe I shouldn't call it fearless leadership. What I did was, I did not want to be drowned. So I raised my voice and continued giving my report until the chair said, Judge, please, 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 what's happening here? The leader who is banging the table is asking, because he was speaking a language I didn't understand, and he was asking why this committee, which is new and is for children, was not given money to start its work. And that was leader Gaddafi. He was the one who was banging the table and speaking in a language that I didn't understand. So sometimes you have to throw yourself out there when you know what you're doing is right. Then the establishment of the family division. I did establish the family division of the High Court of Kenya, and I'm happy that it's still up and running. Now, it was an uphill task in the sense that the Chief Justice of the day questioned me, why the family division? We had the civil division, we had the criminal division, and the commercial division had been established. But I saw the need to establish a family division. So when he called me and I explained, he said, no, what I can see is that you really just want to be, I don't know what you want to do, what you want to be. I'm not convinced. So we can't have a family division. I gave myself 1 week, I went back. I said, I continued to explain why we must have a family division. Life starts at the family level. And there were so many issues, family law issues, there were so many. And most of the matters of family used to be listed in the afternoon. Half the time the judges were a bit tired and were not quite, So anyway, eventually I persisted, and I think when you believe in something, you need to persist. I persisted, and eventually the Chief Justice gave in after I had been to see him 3 times. I was persisting. And I had a very big launch of the family division. He came to open the launch of the family division, and then Attorney General performed the closing ceremony of the day. It was a 1-day exercise. When you believe in something and you believe it's something that is going to help other people, I think you should persist. Now, serving with international colleagues at the ICC, there were also challenges, and I remember particularly I was on a matter, I was hearing an application with a British judge who was male, and my colleague, the other colleague was the woman judge who was from Costa Rica. We were in court, and thereafter, I was actually very new. I think I was just about 3 or 1 month old at the ICC. So I think it was a Monday, and we said we'll deliver the ruling on Friday. So I assumed that for us to deliver the ruling, we were going to discuss it because we had just finished court fairly late. So on Friday morning, my second colleague said, please come over because Judge so-and-so is here. And he was the British judge. When he was elected to the ICC, he was knighted by the Queen. So she told me the judge is here, our colleague is here. So I went. I remember before I went, I said, I haven't seen the draft. He said, oh no, I trust our colleague. I think he's done a good job. I said, I haven't seen the draft. That's what's supposed to happen. Anyway, when I went, I looked at the draft. I read it quickly because he had not even sent it to us. I said, I don't agree with this paragraph, this and this, and that's it. But both of you are robbed. If you think this is a good draft, then both of you will go to court without me. They say, oh no, but we can't do that because we had the matter, 3 of us. I said, then we're going to go through this draft, and I'll tell you why. So again, if you believe you are right, and even if you're working with colleagues, stand your ground and give your reasons. That's what I did. We opened up the draft. We went through it. Indeed, they agreed to what I was talking about. And eventually at 3:30, the same day, instead of going to court at 9, we went to court at 3:30 and we delivered the ruling. Once and again, so soon after that, I was picked to chair a committee to handle a matter of discipline. And it was against one of the very senior judges. And here I am, I'm 2 months old in the court. I'm a woman, I'm Black. The judge who was under discipline was a white judge. So I was given another very senior judge who was also not from Africa. And at least the 3rd judge was from Africa and was a woman. So we handled this matter, and eventually took the result to we were 18 judges. We took the result to the meeting of judges, and it was endorsed, but then the judge was pardoned. So all along, his complaint was, why is it that one of the newest judges is being asked to sit on a committee to handle his matter? She's new, she's a woman, she's Black, she's from Africa. So those things will always come up. Now, then I moved from judgeship to alternative dispute resolution. When I had about 3 years to go at the ICC, I said, look, I want to continue being active, but not as a judge. So I started looking at, I turned my attention to ADR, alternative dispute resolution. And because The Hague was so close to London, it was easy to take time off, depending on your schedule. And I first trained as an arbitrator at the Chartered Institute of Arbitration in London. A year after that, I said, I might as well do another ADR, pursue another ADR mechanism. And I decided to go in to train again for mediation at the Center for Effective Dispute Resolution in London, because I wanted to continue with ADR, but not to be a judge, because really, if 44 years was not enough, what else would be enough? So that is what I did at that time. And I didn't practice either mediation or arbitration until I came back. And when I got back in April of 2018, I hit the ground running. I did as much as I could to make sure that I was practicing my mediation, because by that time I had decided that what I wanted to practice was mediation and not arbitration. The main reason being that in arbitration, the arbitrator or a panel of 3 arbitrators make the decision. I thought I had done enough of that as a judge. In mediation, the parties have the control to make the decision. The mediator is in control of the mediation of the session and the process, but the parties, and you just guide the parties to be able to make a decision that they can live with. And I thought that's really where I am now, what I should be doing, and that's what I do, and I enjoy it. And so those of you who are probably going to retire in another few years' time, I think you need to have a plan. What do you want to do? You've been active all your life. At least I felt I was all my life. All my life as a lawyer, as a judicial officer, what do you want to do? I think it's something you need to think about before that date. In 3 years' time, 4 years' time, 5 years' time, before it comes, you need to think about something. But it's also all right if you want to retire and just rest at home. I think that's also all right. But there's so much, there's so much resource in you that it would be a pity if you just sit at home. So quality is important for fearless leadership. This is what I thought, recognizing that fear drives out decisions and actions and enables, oh, sorry. I can't read all of it very well, and I didn't have the clip here. The fact that fearless leadership influences others to become more open to change and grow and adapt. You can read all of it. Fearless allows leaders to embrace failure, learn from it, and again, other than being paralyzed by uncertainty. And these are all qualities so important for fearless leadership. That's what I think. And again, taking a minute or two to appreciate what you have done and built and achieved. You should always do that. And then forcing yourself into the spotlight. You remember when I told you that I was reading my report and there was a banging on the table and I wasn't going to be put off. I just decided I would force myself into the spotlight by continuing to give them my report. And you can see that the chair saved me and I won the day. And then making decisions and sticking to them, please. This is important. You make decisions, you stick to them. Delegation and empowerment. That is also, it's important always to try and delegate, not take everything to yourself. Sometimes you may not manage. So it's important to delegate, because as you delegate, you also empower other people. And finally, some key values which shaped my career. These values shaped my career. Honesty and integrity. I was a judge virtually all. I was a judicial officer, started off as a magistrate, continued as a judge. Honesty and integrity in the work that I've done. That is key. You just have to. You have to just make it part of your culture. Resilience. You can see that I've had some challenges in my judicial career, and you have to be resilient. Accountability. In fact, I should have put it accountability and accountability. Can you account for what you're doing or what you have? Can you account for it as a leader? Dedication and sincerity. You have to be dedicated to what you're doing. Are you sincere? or is it just on the surface? Humility is a big part of my life. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you have achieved. You need to be humble. When you're humble, you will be surprised what sort of respect that you will get if you are humble. So as far as I'm concerned, I always say, if you're arrogant, you've achieved so much. So why do you want to be arrogant about it? Because if you're arrogant, then people don't even approach you to learn from you. So if humility is really key. Transparency, I think I've talked about accountability and transparency. You just must be transparent if you really want to be the leader that can be emulated. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of other people. Empathy is very important in mediation, absolutely important. Determination, if I wasn't determined, I would have given up what I was doing. And maybe I didn't tell you, I should have said at the beginning that as far I got married fairly early in my life, in the sense that first year university, I had my wedding at first year university. So I got married very early and I started juggling my life as early as you can imagine. I had, while still in the campus, I had 2 children before I completed. And I said, this is not going to put me, I took it in my stride, so to speak. And first of all, choosing law as a career, law was never my choice of a career. Law was my father's choice of a career for me. So I said, since he thinks that I should be a lawyer, I didn't have role models in law at that time. It's important to have role models. I didn't have. So it wasn't never my choice. It was my father's choice. And I said to myself, I will carry it to the highest level possible for his sake. And I remember just before, a week or 2 weeks before my wedding, he called me and my friend, at the time we were not married, so he was my friend. He told him in my presence that my daughter, we were 10 in my family, I'm child number 7. We were 10. And I remember him telling him that, my father telling him that my daughter has high potential. So if she cannot complete the law that I chose for her, then there'll be many problems. So I had so much to work towards. I had my father's choice of a career for me. I had his words, and that has carried me throughout. So networking is very important to network, really important. You remember all these conferences we used to go to, whether they are arbitration conferences, mediation conferences, ADR conferences, or before that, it is so important to network. But I can see now we can only network we can network virtually. Like you see in this session now, I've made how many friends? We are networking. So we must never stop networking, continue to network. And mentoring the younger generation, it is so important. I don't restrict my mentorship to only young women, both young women and young men. I mentor all, as and when I'm able to. So that very briefly, I think, is the journey that I have walked. And thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. I think I will stop sharing my screen now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lady Justice. Wow, what an inspiring journey. I hope the people who have attended here have learned a lot, and most importantly, got inspired. For me, there is 2 things or 2 lessons that I will take home with me. First, what can I do with my law career? And secondly, when I get an answer, I shall always remind myself what I can do with my law career. And secondly, the lessons I've learned here is fearless leadership, resilience, persistence, humbleness, accountability, and so forth and so on. So thank you very much again, Lady Justice. So from the judiciary to the public sector, I'm sure those of you who are in public sector cannot wait to hear from our next representative, our next speaker, who have worked in a public sector for almost 25 years, rising from different positions, from being in charge of legal affairs and boardroom secretary to the Commissioner General of Uganda Revenue Authority. She's also a mother of twins, I hear. And I'm told in Uganda, when you're a mother of twins, you're called Nalongo. Yeah, so in Tanzania here, we also refer the mother of twins as Mama Wawili. So you are warmly welcome, Miss Doris Akoli. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Hafsa, for the introduction. And my Lord Justice, I am so pleased and honored to have shared space with you this afternoon. I listen from your own journey, and I think I speak for many who say that we are extremely inspired by your story, and many of us still say we hope we can be like you when we grow up. I will share my screen, but if I get issues with the network, I request that the hosts will take it on from there. Once again, my name is Doris Akol. I am currently a partner in charge of mainly the tax practice and public sector practice in Denton's, Uganda. I have worked almost all my life as a tax lawyer, starting from the entry point as a legal officer at Uganda Revenue Authority. I grew through the ranks, headed the legal department as Commissioner Legal Services and Board Affairs, and also the board secretary, from when I was then appointed on merit after competitive session to be the Commissioner General of Uganda Revenue Authority. The Commissioner General is the person that heads the tax administration and is one of the forefront leadership positions in any country. So that has been my leadership journey in public service, and I'm pleased that this afternoon I'll share a few things with you. Focusing on public service for women, if you want to be a leader in the public service, I think what I can say is that increasingly the public service is beginning to attract a lot of women taking interest not only in working there, but also in leadership. And we have lots of examples to draw from. And I think that for me is evidence that you can have a very fulfilling career working for the public service. But one of the things that you need to know is that as you go through the journey of working in public service, there are a few things that are important for you to keep in mind. And I have summarized these in form of some kind of a roadmap. What are the tenets of public service? Where do you add value? Where is the point of value creation as part of your career in public service? What drives you? Where are the motivation points when you're serving and eventually leading in public service? And eventually at the end of the journey, reaping the benefits from a stellar career or a very good career working in the public service. The basic principles of public service are service and protection. Public servants exist. The mission for public servants is to serve and protect the communities that we are responsible for. It is service to humanity. Career in public service must be driven by an attitude of service. It must never be driven by an attitude of aggrandizement or an attitude of making money or an attitude of self-promotion, as it were. It's an attitude of service, and whichever sections of the public service that you're in, one has to embrace the mission of the public service and look for where it is that your mission is plugging into service to humanity. Those are the first principles of endeavoring to build a solid and fulfilling career in the public service. So for women who are in the public service and those who aspire to be joining the public service, and there are very many opportunities that we can serve, I would urge that we look at it from the perspective of service to humanity. If that is something that excites you, then by all means, a career in the public service will be extremely enriching and fulfilling to you. A public service is driven by efficiencies, how are public funds used to deliver the public goods and services in an efficient manner? How are public funds being dispersed or dispensed in order that the public or the communities that we serve are able to enjoy a good quality of life, but in an efficient manner? Ethical practice. Public service, ethical practice cuts across all spectrums of service, but it is a hallmark of public service. Because we are, as public servants, one is in a fiduciary position, more or less. You are in a position of trust to the people that you serve. That position or that relationship must be characterized by an ethical mindset. Therefore, the decision-making must be done with an ethical mindset. The practices and you know, the journey that you walk, the journey that one walks must be governed by a high focus on ethics. And ethics is really basically knowing what is right and what is wrong. So every decision you make, everything you decide to do should be guided by doing the right thing. And that's what I mean by ethical practice. The Lady Justice talked about accountability. Accountability is so key in the public service because, again, as a steward of public resources, a career in public service is, one is expected to be accountable for the work that you do, accountable to the people that we serve, accountable for the decisions that are made, and accountable for the outcomes of the decisions that are made. So accountability is a hallmark of public service. And it is in being accountable to communities that actually you serve, that actually you protect. Just imagine if in the course of your day, you have to make a very difficult decision, a decision that will perhaps hurt some people. Where on the scale of the benefit is your decision going to fall? Is it going to fall more on, and as lawyers, we understand the scales of justice. Does it weigh more on doing good, or does it weigh more on harming people? And I think it's important that when a decision like that is made, accountability must accompany that decision to explain that indeed it was weighing more on the side of doing good than doing bad, and this is why we took this decision. Leadership in public service is what drives the service to humanity. And therefore, when you aspire to be a leader in the public service, aspire for leadership, because it is in positions like those that you are able to actually do the service to humanity. You are in control of that. I will now move on to value creation, and this is from the perspective of, from a mentorship perspective, because I know that this webinar has also been organized partly for experience sharing, but also from a mentorship perspective. In any leadership journey, in any service that we do, whether in the public service, in the private sector, in the not-for-profits, we must add value. We must bring value to the table. We should not simply occupy space. We should not simply just stay without doing any good. So I understand at the point in the work that you do, where is it that you add value? Once you're able to understand that position, then you are able to deploy yourself fully in order to add value. And how do you add value? Competency. Are you competent? Are you competently doing your job, or are you simply breezing through? And competency is dynamic. The skills that we had in 1995 when I started work are not the skills one needs today. So competency is a moving target. Aim at ensuring that you're always competent and you're at the forefront of your levels of competency in order for you to add value and to deliver. Embrace a growth mindset. Embrace a growth mindset. I mean, there's a saying we are all familiar with, perhaps, that the day you stop learning is the day you die. So do you want to die? I think a growth mindset is something that we must always wear. We must always be ready to learn, to relearn, to unlearn things that are not taking us forward, and embrace the new things, I mean, look, we used to go for conferences, take flights and go and sit in air-conditioned rooms. But we are now doing these conferences virtually. This is growth. Those who have not been able to catch up have fallen by the wayside. And this is all because of a pandemic that none of us have any control over. So a growth mindset, what are those barriers that keep you from learning? What are those barriers that keep you from growing? And it's important for us to recognize them and shun them and scatter them so that we are always, always growing. Just listen to the Lady Justice, 44 years as a judicial officer, and she decided that, no, this is not it. I've retired, but I'll continue doing arbitration. I'll continue doing alternative dispute resolution. That's a growth mindset, and it must inspire all of us to do the same. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Your investment determines your level of achievement. If you invest little in yourself, of course you'll not go far. But just like any business, if you look at yourself as the CEO of the business called Doris Akol, and you invest in your business is going to grow. Your business will reach, all these high levels. So invest in yourself. Never think that, you'll be wasting money by, doing all these other things that you think are not investments. Invest in yourself, because this is what enables you to continue adding value at whatever stage of life that you are. Differentiation. There are many of you I know who are involved in strategy and such other fields, and you've probably heard of the Blue Ocean Strategy. The Blue Ocean Strategy really tells us that we must be different from the everyone, and that's what makes you stand out. How different are you from the next person? We are in this seminar about 125. What makes you unique in this whole 125 participants in this seminar? The differentiation is what sets you apart and what helps you to bring value that is increasingly recognized as value. And finally, your personal brand. What is it that you are recognized for? I'm sure now there are no prizes for guessing. If we all saw a Coca-Cola brand, would know that it is Coca-Cola. If we saw Omo, for some of us who know Omo, you will know that this is Omo, and such other brands that stand out. What is the brand of you that stands out, that when you're in this crowd, they will know that this is the Omo called Doris Akol, that this is the Coca-Cola, and that this is the MTN or Vodacom. So your personal brand is your personal responsibility. Nobody builds your brand except yourself. And it's part of your investment. It's part of investing in yourself, just like businesses invest in brands that are resilient and that last long. You must invest in your own personal brand. Motivation. Public service can be dreary. It can be drudgery. It can be frustrating. It can be, discouraging at times, because you may want to do so many things, but public service is done within the boundaries of the resources that are available. So what is it that motivates you to keep focused on this journey? And for those of us who are in public service or who have served in public service, you will know that intrinsic motivation is what keeps you going. And intrinsic motivation, I think, is, for me, one thing I would like to suggest is closely linked to your own life purpose statement. What is this statement? We know in companies we have missions. We exist to do I don't know, serve the public in a distinguished way, etc., etc. What is your own life purpose statement? Because that is what gives you motivation. I know that for me and for many other people, part of the reason we were so motivated to continue doing the work that we were doing, even with the hardships that we faced, is because the work we're doing touched the lives of so many people. One decision, one good decision you make, and millions, literally millions of people are being positively impacted. I will give an example that one time we were struggling. There were some challenges we were struggling with. It was a relatively difficult fight. But each time I walked on the streets and I saw these little children going to school, I said, I must keep at this thing, because the outcome of the struggle today is going to benefit these small children. It is their heritage as well. And that kept me going. So what is your life purpose statement that gives you the motivation to continue? That is so closely linked to your definition of success. What is it that you look at and say, I'm successful? What is it that you will do and decide that I have succeeded on my journey, even with all these challenges that we are facing? The Lady Justice told us about the family division of the High Court. For her, it was making sure that these cases are heard by people who are, supposed to listen to them at the right time with the right levels of energy, so that people can actually get justice even at the family level. And that was a definition of success. Starting the Committee on Children at the AU, that is a definition of success. So what is your own definition of success for those of you that are on this journey, whether in the public sector or in the private sector? Because that will also motivate you. If your definition of success is clear to you, you will be able to see it in your mind, and it will drive you to continue on this journey. Money. The conversation on money in the public service. We are in East Africa, we are in Africa, we are in the low-income countries. Money is not a motivation for public service. If money is a motivation for you, then the public service is not for you. But there are other aspects to money that I would like to think, to bring, the other dimension, the perspective to money. The money that is available to you as a public servant should motivate you in it being properly, in you being a proper steward of that money, so that you are able to deliver to the public. And for me, this is where I would like to look at the money discussion, that even though the money doesn't come to you as a public servant in the same way it does to those in the private sector, the money that is at your disposal as a public servant does so much more than the money that is in the private sector. And for me, this is the motivation that I would like to perhaps to encourage people to look at the perspective of money in the public service. And finally, excellence. When you lead or when you serve with excellence, you eventually get to leadership. And when you lead with excellence, there are benefits that you reap. We all know the face of Kamala Harris today, and that's because she started out as an excellent public servant in, I think it is California or somewhere where she was a governor. And because of that, an attorney general, she actually made attorney general. And it's because of that, that she qualified herself to even compete and run for, a Democratic Party nominee for the presidency. And it's because of that, she put her best foot forward. She was identified to be the, runner with Joe Biden, and as they would say, the rest is history. She's the first female vice president of the United States. She's reaping the benefits. She's reaping the benefits of an excellent career in public service. There are benefits to excelling as a leader in public service, as a woman that deploys yourself to serve your community, and you do it excellently, knowing that you are a steward of public servants or public funds to serve the community. there are benefits that come to you. Trailblazing successes, and we know we have so many stories of those. In Kenya, I believe you have your own examples. In Uganda, I will give examples of our Speaker of Parliament, the first and only so far female speaker that we've had in the Parliament of Uganda. We've had another woman lawyer excelling in public service, Jennifer Semakula Musisi, those of you that know her, the first ever executive director of the capital city of Kampala. She did it so well that even after she left, her name is still a household name. So those are some of the trailblazing successes that await you when you serve and lead excellently. And of course, the possibilities are endless. It only doesn't stop with when your career in the public service ends. The possibilities are endless. A career in public service, a career in the public sector opens so many doors. The possibilities are endless. And this is where the saying that we are actually shattering the glass ceiling, for me, becomes even more and more relevant. So these are the things that I really wanted to put out there. They are not conclusive, but they are the ones that I thought I would share with you today as I hopefully inspire and motivate someone to choose a very fulfilling career in the public service. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Colley. What an interesting discussion and presentation here. So what we have learned here today is that it's very important if you choose a career in public services and if you want to excel, it's very important to be accountable. It's also very important to care about your personal branding, growth mindset, and to not have that like you are there to get rich or something like that. So thank you very much. Among other things, that's what we have learned. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our third speaker, which is who is a former executive of Umati, a global gender in public health organization. Currently, she's a CEO of Legal Service Facility, a board chairperson of Tanzania Women Lawyers Association, and also a vice chairperson of Tanzania Startups Association. Our third speaker today will be dissecting on the quest to win over the boardroom and lead a society that traditionally has favored male leadership. I'm sure that the majority of us here are ambitious, smart, focused, and also hardworking. And we have always been asking ourselves this question in one way or another: how do I get a seat on the table? Or maybe should I build my own table in welcoming other people? So the next speaker will give us some insight that we may find useful answering those questions. Please welcome Ms. Lulu Mwanakelala.
Thank you so much, Hafsa. And I have to say, before I say anything, before I continue, I like where you left off, Hafsa. You started a little bit of what I think a lot of us, the question that everybody asks all the time is that how do I get a seat on that table? Do I have to get a seat on that table? Should I build my own table, which has been the new conversation? Should we have our own tables, or should we wait to get a seat on the table? So those are the really important questions that we've been asking ourselves for quite some time. I have to say that I'm very happy to be here and happy to have this opportunity to speak about issues I think all of us who are here right now have a lot to say. So I don't consider myself the authority on what I'm going to talk about, but I think I can talk about my experiences. And because I have been asked this question a lot of times, and I think I have learned through the years, although listening to Lady Justice and the previous speaker from the public service right now, who I think have had a lot more experience. There's still a lot more experience to be had, and I take a lot of what they had to say. I think has a lot to do with what I will be speaking to as well. There are a lot of similarities. A lot of the issues that we talk about are common. and that affects all of us, that have an impact on where we are, and what it is that maybe is the reason behind the issues that we face today. So going back to the topic, I have to start off by saying that I went on a journey, and it was a very strategic, and I have to say intentional journey, that I knew that this is where I wanted to go, and I had to put I had to put my own I have to set my own goals, or to decide on how I was going to get there. And so during this journey, and through the years, and from the experience, you learn, and somehow maybe you begin to understand why it is the way it is, and maybe what are the steps that can be taken to at least address some of the issues that we face when we talk about women in boardrooms. And somebody, I think the previous speaker talked about shattering the glass ceiling, and gave very good examples. And I think at some point I will mention briefly, link what I have to say with what the immediate previous speaker was speaking about, and also the Lady Justice, what she was speaking about. And I'll begin by talking about boardrooms in general, and governance. And when we talk about governance, we always talk about the diversity in the boardroom. And we say that we have to have diversity in a boardroom. But I came to realize that the diversity that we speak of is not in terms of gender, or diversity in terms of looking at the age of the people that we have on the board, but it's more diversity of the board in terms of skill. And when we focus on the diversity in terms of skill, we tend to forego the other issues that to do with diversity. And therefore, for a very long period of time, and even now as we speak, we've always had a problem when it comes to women in boardrooms. How do we get a seat on that table? Because the boardroom has never been seen as a place where you will be looking for diversity in terms of gender. And there are a number of issues that bring us to the dilemma that we find ourselves in. And I'll concentrate on 3 issues. The first one is, when we talk about the board level positions, we have to think about how board members are recruited. So that the diversity has to begin from the recruitment of board members. Traditionally, the recruitment of board members has never looked at diversity in terms of who is being recruited to the board. And we have to ask ourselves the question also, who recruits board members? Who are the board members? And if you look at the face of our boards, you will find there is only a certain type of gender, probably a certain type of age group, and a certain type of expectation of who a board member is. And these are the people that then have to think about who is going to succeed them, or if there is a vacancy, who should come on board. And it is known that under any circumstances, when you're asked, who do you think should come and join you, you will always think of your peers. You will always think of perhaps people that look like you. So there's always been this unconscious, or people, or others might say conscious bias, when it comes to who is a board member. So it begins with the recruitment process. The diversity is lacking, even in terms of how we recruit board members. And because people ask me, what do you need to become a board member? And I always say, Whereas in your career, when you're trying to advance, it's always about your technical know-how, and it's always about your qualifications and your experience. When it comes to boards, it's about the technical know-who. Yes, you do have to be very qualified. You do have to be very experienced. You do have to have all the skills necessary for the role, because you're expected to be knowledgeable about whatever subject it is that you'll be representing on that board. But how many people out there have the same skills, the same knowledge, the same capacity that you have, or even more than you? And the positions, board positions are limited in number. So why you and not somebody else? So it's the same question that was asked by the previous speaker, that you have to set yourself apart. Somebody, there has to be a reason why you should be the person that has to be there and not somebody else. And you also have to be able to get yourself on that seat. So how do you even begin to get yourself on the seat? So all of these things play a role. And because the diversity has to begin with the recruitment, how do you then ensure that there is diversity in that recruitment? And if that diversity happens, you are that person that represents the diversity. So I'll say that is one thing. And then the second one, it is also, when it comes to the board as well, it is, you look at who now is a board member in terms of qualifications of those board members. And when we talk about qualifications, the difference between the qualifications and the diversity in recruitment is that to be a board member, a lot of times, you have to have reached a certain level in your career. You have to have done a certain number of things in order to be considered for a board position. Now, since we're talking about the glass ceiling, we know that the higher you get, the fewer the diversity, the smaller, the slimmer the diversity, and the fewer the female or the gender aspect of it becomes very limited. So you have very few women, and then you also have a lot of, as compared to their male counterparts, but then you also have very few positions on the board. So when there are open vacancies for board positions, then the process of deciding who will be a board member then goes into looking who has the right skills, qualifications, experience, and everything else that was mentioned before, stands out and has a brand and has the integrity and everything else. And then within that, then you have then to select how many, how are we going to be diverse in our recruitment. So because of that, we find ourselves in a position where the positions that are vacant are highly contested for, and the room for or space to have the diversity becomes even slimmer as you get further up the ladder. So how do we create this space? Is by expanding that room now, by saying that we have to be deliberate in terms of how we recruit, how we look at those qualifications, how we have the right candidates for these positions to begin with. And then the third one is the turnover in board positions. You will find that as much as board positions are limited, but also the tenure for board is quite long. So you have board members who have been on the board for a very long time, and maybe they enjoy their that privilege that they have of being a board member, and they don't want to let it go. So sometimes either we don't have board terms, or we have board terms, but they're very short. They're too long. So you have the same people who've been there for a very long time, and it's very difficult for somebody who has not been there to begin with to even get a chance or a foot in the door. So how do we bridge this gap? We either set term limits that are specific, that are short and well, not too short, but we have enough time for to have that succession plan, or we increase the number of board members. So if we had 5, let's have 7. So we allow for 2 more positions so that we can increase the number we can allow for succession. Or if we had 7, can we have 9 board members so that we increase? We know that when it comes to, again, the glass ceiling, that as much as the fewer women in senior leadership positions, there are even fewer women in board level positions. And so if we are trying to really shatter this glass ceiling, then we have to think about how are we going to be very intentional. I like to use these 2 words. How are we going to be very intentional about it? Meaning that we have to set up the right, we're not saying that you should give somebody a board position just because they are there, but we should ensure that there is, we are not somehow, because of the systems and the structures that we have, we are not somehow limiting the diversity within the board. So how do we ensure that we open these spaces up so that we get more women, more diversity into the boardroom? Because if we leave it as it is, we will continue to struggle with the issues that we've struggled with. So sometimes something has to happen. But we also have to be deliberate. Things don't just happen. You can talk all you want about diversity, but unless you do something about it, it's not going to happen. So I remember being in a board where, in an organization where the board had actual percentages of a number of young people on the board, a number of women, a percentage of women on the board, and those seats cannot be taken by anybody else. So apart from having the general seats, you would have these seats that, you know, that have to be occupied so by the right diverse group of people to ensure that there is diversity on the board. And when we talk about diversity on the board, let's not just talk about the skills, because when we talk about just about the skills, not to say that women don't have these skills, but it's very easy to say, my board is diverse because I have a lawyer, I have an accountant, I have this, I have that, and they're all of the same gender or of the same age group. Whereas you can say that I will have a diversity in terms of skills, but I will also make sure I have a diversity in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of other things as well. And I think that's when we get a true meaning of diversity in our boards, because in order for you to have the best out of your board, going back to governance, you do need all of the skills, experiences, and diverse ideas and agendas that all these different groups bring on the board. And I think it's really important that this message comes across. So for me, I'm going to conclude, but while I conclude, I would like to say that to end as I started, which is I really, really resonate with what was said by the Lady Justice. It is really important for us women to ensure that we really set ourselves apart in terms of our integrity, in terms of our accountability, in terms of our commitment, and showing what it is we can bring to the table, because nobody can deny you when you bring what you have to bring on the table. Nobody can take that away from you. And I truly believe in that. And then my other fellow speaker, I think she spoke about being having your own personal brand. She spoke about also setting yourself apart and making sure that you are known for what it is that you can do. And I think that's really important, because again, it goes back to the same thing that we were talking about before, which is why you and not everybody else. If there are limited spaces and we all want to get there, so what is it that you can do to make sure that you position yourself, that if there is that space, you are there to fill that space? And thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm very happy to hear from everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lulu. We have learned a lot, I'm sure. And thank you for teaching us that diversity is not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of skills. And also networking is also very important when you want that seat on the table. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our next speaker, who is a young lawyer and who has achieved a lot against all odds. She's currently practicing in South Sudan. And she's also a member of Honorable Society of Lincoln in London and managing partner of Colmaric Law Chambers. She recently also served as a secretary to the board of directors of South Sudan Revenue Authority. And she's here today to share the opportunities and challenges to women leadership in jurisdictions undergoing transitions. This topic is particularly very important, taking into account that in most of our countries, we tend to go through some sort of transition from time to time. So I am honored to welcome to you, Ms. Assunta Lual. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Afsa. Lady Justice Joyce, President ELS, Madam Doris, and all my fellow speakers and the audience. My name is Assunta Lual, the founder of Colmaric Law Chambers and the managing partner. As you've heard from Afsa, I recently served as board secretary for South Sudan Revenue Authority. I have been given to speak on the challenges and opportunities the women leadership, especially in war-torn countries, and for this session in the context of South Sudan. As most of you know, South Sudan, we are currently trying to implement the recent peace agreement, the revitalized peace agreement. And that is not going as well as we thought it would in terms of the length of time it's taking to have all the components implemented. First and foremost, I would like to thank women in South Sudan, especially those that have stood and fought for someone like myself to be able to go to school and to be able to read and write and be able to speak on platforms such as this one. When you look at South Sudan, you know that we were in war and all that, and finally we became a country, and women have never been behind. During the liberation or during the civil war, women fought effortlessly against, alongside men, against the Khartoum regime. At some point, they even formed their own battalion, which was called Katiba Banat, which means Women Battalion. And women were the people that looked after children. They looked after the wounded heroes. And they also provided food for all the soldiers, because at that time, it doesn't matter whether you know that person or not. As long as he's a soldier, you're going to open your door and you're going to give him food. So that is the role that women played. When it came to the CPA negotiation, women were also involved. And as we attained our independence, women were also involved as well. During the peace negotiation, just after the 2013 war, women were also involved. So they played their role, and they have done that from the very beginning. When you look at the representation of women when it comes to especially leadership positions, and let's talk of politics, you've seen that when you look at the quotas, you know that we have 25% women at each and every level of the government. There has to be 25% quotas for women to fill. But since the initiation of that system, women have never gone to the point where they became that they feel 25%. The farthest we've gone is 17%, and that was during immediately after the independence. So immediately after the independence, to give you an example, we had 5 women who got appointed to fill ministerial positions, and we had, I think, about 17 or 28 deputy ministers. So when you look at that, you realize that women are adequately represented in the government. All right. So during that interim period until now, the CPA recently, the revitalized peace agreement provided that from 25%, let's move up to 35%. And when we look at that, that 35% has never been filled. We've never really received 35, whether it's in the state governments, whether it's in the national government. And these can only be traced back to why do women not want to participate in leadership? And what I have found out is that it's not the women that do not want to participate. It's because of some of the cultural norms that we have in South Sudan that encourage, that do actually discourage women to become active, to take up places in the public spaces. And one of them is the notion that women belong in the kitchens, women belong in the homes, women are not supposed to be in parliament, women are not supposed to be, let's say, as a state governor. And this has really encouraged many women to sit back and say that this is not my place, I'm not even going to try, all right? We also have men that do not allow women to come into these spaces because they believe that I don't want my wife to be a minister, because when she becomes a minister, she'll spend most of the time outside. And they feel insecure that when she's out there, she's exposed to other men, and that's a problem, yeah? Another thing that we've realized is that the women in leadership as we speak, because we have women that we've seen from 2005 to now 2021, the same faces since that time until now. And these women, they've not reached out to other women to say that now that we have this space, we're going to use this influence to be able to bring in other influential, other aspiring young leaders to be able to occupy positions of leadership. They have not reached back to open that door and ensure that other women come into power as well. So these are some of the things that have really made it very challenging for a young woman like myself who may aspire someday to become a leader, let's say a politician. So you find it very difficult for young people to get into politics, for example. And South Sudan is set up in a way that we don't go out to identify people that are capable. What we do is that if I have an uncle, if I have an auntie who is influential, I can use her to be able to seek appointment. Let's say if I want to become a minister today, I'll go to that auntie of mine, be able to use her to convince the appointing authority to be able to appoint me. So if you don't have, regardless of how much educated or how much experience, skills that you may have, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to make it to be appointed. As Doris said earlier, money is motivating a lot of people, all right? It shouldn't be, but then again, in this context, because we find it that if you get into a position of leadership, you're likely to make, money and be able to do things that you want. So money becomes a motivating factor, and that's why most people do not get to make it into those spaces. So I've always said that I have a love-hate relationship with the affirmative action that is in our that is being used currently in South Sudan. Because when you say that we are going to give women 35%, it's a good thing, because this ensures that women are represented, that women get a seat on the table. But then again, affirmative action should just be the bare minimum, whereby we say that we 35%, if it's 10, we need at least 4 women on the table. But what does this affirmative action do? It's being used as a rubber stamp, because if today the president is appointing governors, he will appoint women just to ensure that they comply with the requirements that are in place, which is the 35%. Is that woman going to be active? Is she going to ensure that the rights of women are actually addressed and that they are pushed? If women need funding for their enterprises, will these women representatives ensure that this is done? So I believe that we shouldn't just stop with 35%, but then again, that 35% is becoming an hindrance, because if women have 70% and if 70% is qualified, it gets to a point, if we have 35, then that 35, we're told that it's enough. You can't go further than this, you know. So these are some of the things that South Sudanese women are facing, and I believe other women in the world are facing. If I could talk on the opportunities that women have now, I would talk of the affirmative action that I just talked about, the 35%. The 35% ensures that we have the 35%, and that's a good thing. So if these women are able to get into, let's say, parliament, if they become, you know, cabinet ministers, they are able to push for other women to be involved and for women rights issues to be addressed. But then again, that's what we don't see that always. These women, they get into these positions and they decide to just slip. Some of them, it's because of, you know, you talk of the table. Some of them, as soon as they get appointed and they have that seat at the table, it doesn't take time before they realize that they are part of the menu. So they begin to play along the party agendas, because each and every party has an agenda. So this becomes a problem too. You find women that are appointed, but then again, when they get into those positions, they begin to play along the party politics. You don't see them actually delivering. But I have seen a trend recently, because you probably have seen that America now is celebrating their first female vice president. But South Sudan, we had our first female vice president last year. And this is a good thing. We got Madam Rebecca appointed as the first vice president, female vice president. And that's a good thing. That is progress, because this is the first time we've ever, even if it's just appointment, it's a good thing, because now she's able to work on issues of humanitarian things that affect women. We've also recently had our first minister in charge of defense, Minister of Defense, which we've never had a female Minister of Defense. We have female generals, but we've never had a female Minister of Defense. And this is a good thing. So it's a progress, because we know very well that the higher percentage of women in leadership, the higher the chances that issues to do with corruption will decrease, and there will be more focus, you know, on humanitarian needs and also development needs. So this is a good thing. I think that would be all for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Assunta. What an interesting discussion. I'm sure you have answered some of the questions that people have been asking. We have given chance to women to lead. Why do not they come forward? Okay, so we have learned that women sometimes does not come forward to take those chances of leadership and stuff like that, because there is a culture norms that discourages women to take positions, particularly because of fear, particularly because of ego and sort of things like that. So I would also like to inform people that if you have any question, please just go to our comment section and write your question. Will be answered in a Q&A session that will come after our presenters, our last presenter presents. So introducing our last presenter, we have been asking ourselves this question. Some of us have been asking ourselves this question, that is it possible for women to lead a great law firm? Is it possible? Is it possible for women to work together and lead a great law firms? Because there is a lot of people who are saying that women always discourages each other, they hate each other and stuff like that. It is normal. We have all heard it before. So our next presenter here is not only asking this question, but she's also leading by example, because she belongs to a 10-year-old decade law firm that she's working with other women. So please, without further ado, welcome Miss Lisa Ndekumana.
Thank you, Absa. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the fellow speakers that we just heard. It's been, I'm extremely happy to be part of this webinar and to hear them sharing their experience, such vibrant, active, inspiring women. I feel like you have empowered us all this afternoon with wings, and we cannot wait for the end of this webinar and then go out and fly. Allow me first to share my screen. Thank you. So I would like to start my presentation with one of my favorite quotes that goes, my coach said, I run like a girl. And I said, if you run a little faster, we could too. This quote is from Mia Hamm, who's one of the most famous women footballers, which is an area known for being male dominated. So I figured this could be a great example and a great analogy with the areas of law and business that are known for being quite male dominated. Because of course the woman now today, she's educated, she's qualified, so she can run. She knows how to run, and she runs fast. We've heard Lady Justice, we've heard Doris, we've heard Asunta, Lulu, all the. When I got this question, is it possible for women to lead great law firms? My initial presentation, my initial draft was just one slide. Capital letters, Y, full stop, E, full stop, S, full stop. Yes. But then maybe I figured it would be probably better if I would develop a little bit. So what makes us wonder why women cannot lead great law firms? Why are we still asking ourselves this question in 2021? I'm going to start with I would like to highlight that there is an important lack of data about women in the legal sector. We cannot tell how many women judges we have. We can't tell what is the progress, the increase between women that have been lawyer probably in the year 2000 and in the year 2021. However, I do have some numbers. Among 660 lawyers in Burundi, only 176 are women. Among 39 mediators in Burundi, only 3 are women. The General Counsel of Bujumbura Bar is, we have 10 people, and then only 3 are women. And it makes us wonder, are we unfit, disadvantaged? Are we prevented it from? And Asunta just made some clear and then great points, which is reminding us all about the context. So the context here in Burundi is a patriarchal society. We are learned from very early age to have what's called in Kirundi ubufasoni, which technically means you have to have manners to be calm, to shine, but not to outshine men, to be there, to be important, but to still be an important accessory. This then makes us wonder, is this the reason why probably sometimes women aren't confident enough to seek for these positions, to seek for executive decision to take up the space? I'll give an example of our law firm. Our law firm is called CN & Associates. It's 2 decades old. We've been, the firm's been on for 17 years. It's always been an all-women staff, and it's always been led by a team of women. It's the only all-women firm in Burundi. And we hope we provide A-class, and we work really, really hard to provide A-class services in different wide range of areas. And one of the elements that we insist on is our team. We spend great amount of time implementing actions that build up the confidence of our staff, such as probably practicing public speaking, practicing writing, practicing several elements, and which has produced some consequences. For example, 90% of the trainees or the interns we have went on and then were part of top 3 when sitting for the bar exam, which is something that we are very excited about. And they go on and seek higher, bigger opportunities. They aren't afraid, they are bold, and then they wish to do so. So what is it that's needed? And then what do we need to implement in order to build the confidence, in order to build the will of seeking these positions, and also understanding, kind of going against the wave, because the wave is telling us to shine but not to outshine. And sometimes when you're seeking leading position, it is seen as bold, and then maybe you feel like, oh, I may outshine. Some of the elements we insist on is education. A degree is important, but more degrees is better, and then more training is good. There's never enough training. In the areas of law and business, the world is evolving, and it's evolving fast. You have to keep learning, to know what's going on, to learn about the neighbors. What are the neighbors doing? How are they coping with the changes? Maybe sometimes they've implemented laws that we haven't implemented yet. So you have to practice, to educate yourself, and then to follow courses regularly. We have now a wide range of courses that are available on the internet, and in some there are available scholarships, but they're also available free courses that could teach you several elements. It could even be to learn your English, to be able to write and learn English in a country that mostly speak French. We study in French and then speak French or Kirundi. So therefore, when we need to be competent or competitive in the region, in the East Africa region, it gets more challenging for us. The second point is to be informed. As I said, several countries around us sometimes get to certain elements that we haven't had the chances or probably the opportunities to. We have to learn how to read regularly the papers produced by fellow practitioners, to listen to some podcasts, and then follow webinars. One of the very great side effects of COVID-19 has been how available the information on the internet is. Everything can now be virtual, and it's up to us to take this opportunity and then enjoy it. The third point is networking. We are told here in society how to behave. You need to grow a network. You need to get part of association, to get part of groups, to get a part of to build your sort of a tribe, a squad, a community that's going to be here to maybe share, hear from them, their experiences, because you're not alone, it's happening. Support each other, understand each other, and then learn more. When I started, mostly in the beginning, I would be asked to be part of certain assignments, and then sometimes I would feel, oh, this assignment, it seems quite big. It's not that it's big, but I don't feel like I have a total grasp of what's needed. I'll now be like, I'll be fine. I could be part of the team, but maybe not lead it. And I would see male counterparts spontaneously be part of it. And then I would expect them to actually know. So I'll be like, oh, have you been part of this? Is this something that you've done? And then burnt and male counterparts would be, no, I haven't done this, but I figured we're here to learn. So we learn by doing. And if we fail, we probably pivot and adapt, which is something, this happened once, but it didn't happen a second time, because it's true. This opportunity is leading to other opportunities, but it's up to us to feel confident enough to take it, learn by doing, even though society is harsher towards us when we fail. Because when we fail, the backlash is way important than what men would face. That's then where the tribe, the community that you've built around you is here to support, and it's up to, and the skills are here to avoid you failing. And that's quite important. The last part is to seek a feedback. It's always quite important to know where you're doing right, where you're doing wrong, and simply not taking it personally. To take it, to listen to it, and to pivot, to adapt, but not take it personally. My last slide would be about giving it back. Once we've made it enough, and once we've made it to a certain point, we make it a point to actually seek young lawyers, to invite them to our office, to arrange trainings, to be around, so we can give back, so we can empower them. I've explained that sometimes we do practice public speaking, we practice writing, and these are the elements that are there to empower and build the confidence to seek out, take space when the opportunities arise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lisa Ndikumana. Among other things, Ms. Lisa Ndikumana is encouraging us to invest in others, to give back to the community, learning by doing, despite the backlash, and also always be inspired. So thank you very much. So this will be the end of our presentation for today. And I would like to welcome Mr. President, Bernard Oundo, who will lead us to another segment, question and answers session. Mr. President, you're welcome.
Thank you, Hafsa, for your moderation this far. I want to thank the panelists for the excellent presentations. I can tell you that the messages I'm receiving on my phone are very touching and inspiring. I think one of the comments I've received is this conversation should have been on national TV, because most of the people who are watching are really inspired by what you have shared. Now, unfortunately, time is not always our best ally. We have about 17 minutes to 4 p.m. So I'm going to pick up a few questions. Those will be answered. I'll request just in the question and answer session. So I'll just focus on about 4 questions because of the time. Some of the questions, the panelists will type them and you'll be able to get the answers. Number 1, I would like to ask this question from Roslyn Odede. What has been the greatest challenge of your career and how did you overcome it? I think this was to the Lady Justice. Then there is a question from, I'll just ask the questions, then I'll give the panelists time to answer them. Lady Justice again, Mugabe Ivan, do you advise the female law students on the platform to first marry and have kids? How old are the kids now?
Do you want me to answer straight away?
No, let me ask the questions, just one round of questions, and then I'll give a comment from Philip Munavi. Goodness, what a journey. Thank you, Honorable Justice Joyce. A small question. What do you think is the best way to pass on such experience and expertise to the younger generation? Your last point on mentorship seems to be stuck in the generational gap between the senior and young advocates across all gender today. Then the question to all presenters from Alice Muhaire: how have you actively nurtured women amidst an environment where they may be actively pulling you down? I think that story is a very big concern. So that is a question to all panelists. Then there is a question by a young lawyer that I want to ask, because these webinars are also really for mentorship. Lawyers want to deal with. And the question is, I'll paraphrase it because
Mr. President,
Mm,
I think there is a bad connection.
yeah. Yeah. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, it happens with the
Yeah.
Ugandan's network issues.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Mr. President. Hey.
Well, Hafsa, I think you can continue with the Q&A while Mr. President reconnects.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if what question was he reading actually. So let me just read another question randomly. What causes, another question, what causes can one engage in our society, clubs, union one can join to get a better chance to rise up in a rank and improve their chances to join a board or network further to in the list, or network further in the list? I think that question was directed to Ms. Lulu. I'm not sure if she's here or she's offline. And also another question, do we still want to be favored by gender? I think we need to come up, okay, I'm not sure if this is a question. Do we still want to be favored by gender? I think we need to come up to a space where we need to ascertain what it is that we want. Some of the issues are the result of our socialization rather than what we have to face out there. I think good efforts and skills will be recognized, albeit from a woman. Okay, that was a comment. I hope you took note, and if you have anything to respond. So Mr. President, initially he said like, we can only ask some few questions because of time. We can only answer some few questions because of time. So can we proceed with those questions that I've already read, and we will see if we have time. We'll proceed to answer other questions. So please, panelists, I welcome you. We'll start with the Lady Justice, please.
I think I managed, thank you very much. I managed to capture two. And one I thought was very interesting when it says, do you advise female law students to marry and have kids before? No, I would not give that advice. I think when it comes to personal things like getting married, you have to do it when you feel you are ready. And anyway, over and above that, I wouldn't advise law students, with female law students, because it's completely challenging. I'm not sure that the current millennials can cope with it. It's very, very challenging, and that's not advice I would give. I think when it comes to that, to certain things in your life, you have to do them when you feel you are ready and you feel you can cope. That would be my answer to that question. Now then, I think it's Roslyn Odede who says, what has been the greatest challenge of your career and how did you overcome it? I think I cited very many challenges. I'm not sure which one was more challenging than which one. There are areas where I felt challenged because I felt discriminated against because I was a woman. And I just had to deal with it. Like, for example, in the High Court, I spent many years in the High Court, and I felt I can only be discriminated against. It can't be because I'm not doing my work, because I believed that I was doing my best. So at some point, what I started doing was, since I understood my work and I knew what my work is, I decided to, that's why I went out and I was serving in a UN committee, I was serving at the African Union Committee, I was doing this, I decided to open out a little, so that I didn't just feel I'm spending too much time here and I'm not gaining anything. So in the process, I just branched out. I was doing my work, but doing other things. Maybe that's one way in which I dealt with some of the challenges that I felt I was going through at the High Court level. I did a lot of things at that time, and they all paid one way or another later in my life. Maybe that's one way of answering that. But challenges were different at different stages of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Justice. What is your comment on this one? Do we still want to be favored by gender? I think we need to come up to a space where we need to ascertain what it is that we want. Some of the issues as a result of socialization rather than what you have to face out there. I think good efforts and skills will be recognized. This is coming from a woman, she said here.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, I want
Okay,
you to comment on that one.
To comment.
To comment, because it's not a question.
Yeah,
Can
you know, I've never been in a situation where I was favored because of my gender. I've been in situations where I had to fight for what I believed I deserved. I had to work towards it. That's the life I have lived. If I see something and I think I should have it, why not? Then I work towards it. Just for example, just last year was the lockdowns and partial lockdowns. It suddenly occurred to me that all I had was, the qualification I had in mediation, I was an accredited mediator. And I said, but that's not good enough. Mediation is being practiced worldwide and at international level. And I used the opportunity to get myself qualified as a certified international mediator just in the course of last year, and a certified advanced mediator and a chartered mediator. I realized I can still do so many other things. So I have never been in that situation where I wait for favors. I've been in a situation where I'm a go-getter. If I think there's something that I can add, I go and get it. That's how I can answer that.
Thank you very much for your comment. Can we move to another panelist, please, with a question that I've already read? Can you respond, please? Thank you.
I will come in now. I wanted to take on the question asked about challenges in career. In my specific experience, I can say that, and I think it is true for others as well, ethical dilemmas present a huge challenge in career. There are times when, because we don't live on a cloud, we don't live in the sky, we live on earth. Sometimes there are ethical dilemmas that people are presented with. Someone, if I can give an example, I was litigating a case, and one day I get approached by the counsel on the other side, representing the smuggler that we were prosecuting. And they say, look, this company does not belong to your father. Your boss has already accepted to take this bribe. So what are you struggling for? What is your problem? Why don't you just also take the money that we are giving you so that you can drop the case? So ethical dilemmas like those present, and if you do not have strength of character, it is important to develop that strong bond of character in yourself so that when such challenges come your way, you know exactly the decision you're going to make. Of course, I decided that I was not going to succumb to their threats and their, whatever it is they were saying, because I knew also that they were telling lies. We proceeded to prosecute, and we managed to get the judgment in favor of the government, paying for the smuggler who had been impounded to pay the taxes. And later on in years, you find that people like those who before we are presenting these dilemmas, challenges to you, now begin to respect you because you passed the test at that time. So ethical dilemmas come, and I would encourage that we all look into our strength of character to overcome those challenges, because then later on in life, that's what also helps build your personal brand. That's the comment that I can make on that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kole. I would also like to welcome Assunta. Assunta, I can't see you here. You're there. Okay, fine. Okay, what was your comment about women wanting to be favored in this environment instead of getting out there and compete?
Well, I would say that it's quite difficult for most women, and I'll take South Sudan as an example. Majority of us are not educated. Majority of us do not have those circles where they can influence, because here you lobby. If you want anything, you have to lobby. It's not like we have that a level ground whereby a woman and a man can come and they compete, and they're judged based on their merits. We don't have that in South Sudan. And that's why we have the affirmative action. But I also believe that if it's something that you can work for, then I encourage you to work for it instead of going out there and seeking to get, being handed things. It doesn't happen. There's no free lunch anyway. So if you have to work for it, work for it. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Miss Lisa Ndikumana.
Yes, Afsa.
Yes, I think there was some question directed to you.
Yes. So
Yes,
I would like to answer.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. There is one question that asked about balance. And I think this is a question that's mostly asked to women. It's a result of sometimes society pressure, but also mostly self-imposed pressure. Women, we want to do everything excellently. We want to be great professionally, in our personal life, with our friends. We want to be present. So therefore, this pressure sometimes could be quite suffocating. And I've learned really a long time ago to remove the word balance out of my vocabulary and replace it with these two words. What I call routine. There are important, necessary elements, whether professionally or personally, that need to be done. And these, since you know them, you need to make sure that the time allowed for this is planned, and you don't spend time thinking about it, how you do it, when you do it. You have a particular time. If it's to pick up something, you know what time you're going to pick it up, and you try to sustain and follow these routines. The second word is priorities. Every day, every week, every month, the quarter, the year, there are priorities. And I try to focus on priorities. What is the main point of what I need to do today? It could be 3 important tasks, and then the rest will be accessory. But I would know that when these 3 are done, mostly everything could flow, and then the rest could be done later. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see time is not in our favor, but I would like to add at least 2 questions, and I will ask the panelists to please answer them in very, very short form. And the rest of the question will be answered through emails and other communication. There's this question here. Olive Mumbo is asking, what options are available to female lawyers who are yet to be admitted to the bar, however, have undergone the advocate trainings programs? And another question. What structures are there to consistently mentor young women in legal profession, even under the EALS? So please, Huntington, if you are here and you are hearing me, we will also appreciate if you comment on this one, you respond on this one directly. What structure are there to consistently mentor young women in the legal profession, even under the EALS, or even under other avenues? So please welcome Lady Justice.
Sorry, just repeat that question again. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Huntington.
No, the last one is directed to Huntington.
Mm.
And the other one
is,
she was just asking what options are available to female lawyers who are yet to be admitted to the bar, however, have undergone the advocates training programs. What is your advice on this one? What would you advise a young lawyer who is coming directly from the university, but is not yet admitted as an advocate?
Well, I don't know how long the waiting period is for her to be admitted as an advocate, but my first advice would be that try and get yourself admitted, because later on in life, jobs are going to be advertised and they are going to say an advocate of the High Court of Tanzania, advocate of High Court of Uganda, advocate of the High Court of Kenya. But in the meantime, maybe if there's a law firm that can allow you to, because by that time, I'm assuming, if I remember, I don't know how many years back, I'm assuming you have already done your pupillage, isn't it? In a law firm or something. And you are, if the young woman is aspiring to practice in future or to be a lawyer in future, I think if it's possible to attach yourself to a legal firm or attach yourself to a lawyer somehow, because I don't know, I spent my life, though I was an advocate admitted to the bar, I never practiced. You understand?
Thank you, Lady
I didn't
Justice.
practice, so let somebody else.
Yes, thank you, Lady Justice. Lisa, any comment on that one? How would you respond?
I'm having some internet troubles. Can you please repeat the question? I did not hear you.
Like, what is your advice to young lawyers who are yet to be admitted to the bar, but they are already graduated from universities? How would you advise them?
My first comment would be to figure it out first what they wish to do. So do they wish to be admitted to the bar? If they figure they probably want to explore other opportunities, not be afraid to try several areas. There are very important, interesting areas. Like for now, we can see that with everything happening with COVID-19, we realized that there are some matters around data protection, cyber criminality, or others that aren't yet explored by people around here. And it would be a nice way probably of trying something new till you figure out what you know. But if you have a vision that's clear, you should try to give yourself the means to do so. And if you do not be afraid to explore. There is no particular timing in when to join the bar or not join the bar. You can advise outside the bar. You can try several areas such as tax, such as what I just mentioned, that could empower you in maybe when you join the bar to know exactly where you're going and what you wish to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Huntington, are you here to respond to the question about ELS? Huntington. Huntington is not here. So yes,
I'm
so
not
maybe
certain he can hear.
Yes,
his
David,
location does not have very good internet. Probably I can respond.
Yes,
that question. And well, we have quite a number of activities that are women focused. In fact, as the president started by saying early in his speech, we launched this Women Lawyers Conference as part of mentoring and bringing women to an equal status or table as the lawyers in the region. I know now we have that prowess and that knowledge and understanding of everything. We have equaled the playing field, and the Women Lawyers Conference was created as a way of providing an avenue of mentorship and growth for women lawyers. That is one of our key areas that is directly focused on women empowerment, women lawyers empowerment. And then of course we have other programs where we involve a lot of women. And in fact, in our strategy, we have to cater for space for women in everything that we do. One of those is the Young Lawyers Conference or Young Lawyers Mentorship Activities. This is an avenue that most of our female lawyers have been involved in. In fact, under this, we have had past winners of a competition that we've dubbed the East Africa Young Lawyers Competition. It has been won by female lawyers twice. So this is a great, one of our great avenues for their mentorship. And then we have academic training or professional training through the ELS Institute. I think this is open to all members. And it's one avenue that anyone in the profession can take advantage of, whether you are a man or a woman. It's also one of our major mentorship areas or training and capacity building areas. We also have internships. I think this is a program that is has been piloted but stalled at some point. It's one of the programs we are thinking of restarting, where we do cross-border exchange of professionals. So this will be one of our areas that we can do mentorship. You're taken from, say, Burundi, and you come to Kenya, you learn how it operates. It's one of the areas that we want to ensure that we build the capacity of our women lawyers. So a lot of focus will be placed on women lawyers. Then we have the area of legal research and publications. I think this is also an open area that women lawyers can take advantage of. Publish yourselves. ELS provides a lot of opportunity for publications. So as a woman lawyer, you can always have your work out there through us. We have a journal, we have a magazine, and these options are always open to our lawyers. Previously, we had something we called the lecture series program. I think this was one of the avenues that we were using to build capacity of not necessarily women lawyers, but all members. So it's one area that women lawyers can always take advantage of. It's something that our new president has really placed a lot of focus on. We are going to have a lot of forums to build capacity and mentor advocates across the region. So we're going to bring a lot of activities going forward. I think weekly, if not, yes, weekly to you. So you can always take advantage of those activities and ensure you learn from the very best. We try to really bring you the very, very best in the profession across the region. So I think our women lawyers can always take advantage of such opportunities to grow in their careers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David. I think we are approaching the end of our webinar today. Therefore, I'd like to call upon our panelists to give us their closing slot. So first, Lady Justice, I welcome you to give your closing slot.
Thank you very much.
In short, very short.
What I'd like to say is there's so much room for growth. Never limit yourself, yeah, especially the younger generation. Don't limit yourself. Believe in yourself and go get it and grow. And just one favor I would ask is please do better than what I have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Justice. We'll go straight to Miss Doris Akoli to give her closing slot. Miss Doris? I can't see her. Miss Doris? Okay, Assunta, please proceed.
What I can say is that there's nothing you can't do as a woman. Being a woman is not I mean, the greatest leaders I've known mostly are women. So there's no way you can't do well or you can't achieve your dreams. That's what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Miss Lulu, please.
Thank you, Hafsa. And for me, it's the most important thing is that we position ourselves. Positioning is very important. As much as we talk about having the spaces and having the opportunities, but we have to position ourselves and set ourselves apart. And we have to make sure that if we have a chance to create these spaces, then we create the spaces so that we allow for others to also get a chance to participate as well, as much as possible.
Thank you so much. Ms. Lisa Ndikumana. Ms. Lisa Ndikumana, okay, I see you.
Yes, thank you, Hafsa. My last words would be webinars such like this are important. Any events showcasing, putting women first, encouraging each other are important and necessary. As an advocate of creating and sharing space with women in the sectors of law and business, my last words would be, let's not wait for others. Sometimes we seek for those events or activities and we don't find them. But what about we start them around us and then see with our neighbors, with women we know, and then try to create space where we get to advise each other, empower each other, and then build each other's confidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lisa Ndikumana. Mr. President, I see you're back. Do you have any comments or closing thoughts that you would like to make?
I think very briefly, thank you to the panelists. We've been really, really, really excited and blessed with your presentations. So I'd like to thank you in a special way on behalf of the East Africa Law Society. And I'd like to urge you that whenever we come, please do not get tired. We are all in a journey to inspire our women and female lawyers. So we will be very excited to have you back. Thank you once again, and apologies for overshooting. I know we have overshot by about 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess I have to say something before we close. So I'll begin by thanking you all for joining our very first in-law webinar, Women in Law webinar series. We will conduct these webinars each month. So you are warmly welcome to join us here. We'll be having different guests and we'll go away from that. So thank you, the speakers too, who were kind enough to accept our invitation despite their busy schedule. And finally, I want to thank the people who have made this webinar possible, primarily David Isigano and the Secretariat in general. Lastly, I would just close this meeting by saying that when I was opening this meeting, I said that I was hoping to achieve 3 things. First and foremost, for the attendees to uncover what it takes to raise to the pinnacle of leadership, along with asking ourselves, like, what can we do with our law degrees? What can we do with our law degrees? We have seen the likes of Kamala Harris, Lady Justice here, and so many other women who inspires us. And also the second things that we were hoping to achieve is that things to take to our work to help us be more effective in our own initiatives and collectively as we work with others. And thirdly, for everyone to be motivated, to be inspired, to be aspired, to empower women to reflect on ourselves and also to get that renewed commitment to our work and finding new connections. So I hope the majority of us here are going to leave this meeting with a renewed sense of satisfaction, and you have learned some few things or so many things from our speakers. And I hope we have achieved those 3 things. So I wish you a very nice evening and thank you for joining us.